We're getting ready to reopen. Yes, Portugal is on the green list, but Greece and Spain are in amber. Can the summer be saved with Portugal alone?
Yeah, good morning, Anne-Marie and Manus. It can't be saved with Portugal alone, but remember, we're only in mid-May. We expect the UK will add probably Italy and Greece to the green list before the end of May, and Spain probably in early June. And what we've seen is a very strong rebound in our forward bookings in the last 6 weeks. First week of April, we took about 500,000 bookings. Last week, we took 1.5 million bookings. So it's trebled in the space of 6 weeks. With an awful lot of UK families booking their holidays in Greece, in Italy, in Spain, and Portugal, not in May, but through June, July, August and September. And we think that's going to continue. The UK has done a spectacular job on vaccinations. 60% of the adult population now vaccinated. All of the scientific evidence over the weekend confirms that actually vaccinations are effective against the Indian variant, but the Indian variant is more spreadable or has a higher rate of spread. But the vaccinations are effective against it. And so we think, like previous experience with the Brazilian, with the South African, with the Kent variants, it'll be a 1 or 2 week wonder, and then everybody will calm down because the vaccines are effective. The critical thing to reopening travel in Europe for the summer months of June, July, August, September will be continued rollout of the vaccines. And most European countries are predicting that they'll get to about 80% of their adult populations with at least first dose vaccines by the end of June. So we think we're looking at a very strong July, August, September. We think the booking trend over the last 6 weeks clearly supports that.
Okay, so you expect Italy and Greece to be added to the UK green list, but Germany has already raised some alarms. Are you worried about other countries cutting off travel to the UK?
No, I mean, look, most European countries, Anne-Marie, are looking at the UK and going, God, they're 60-70% vaccinated. They'll have vaccines on demand by the end of May. Actually, they're removing restrictions on UK arrivals and UK visitors. Most EU countries already have some elements of the Indian vaccine or the Indian variant in their countries, but vaccinations are removing the threat of hospitalizations, morbidity and serious illness from vast swathes of the high-risk population. We think it'll be a 1 or 2 week issue, and then people will go back. People will again return to focusing on vaccinations.
Michael, I've been fortunate enough to do a couple of trips. I've spent €300 on PCRs, and I've spent probably 1 full day executing those PCRs at either end of the trips. The return to pre-COVID demand levels, Michael, those are the biggest hindrances. The cost of those PCRs and indeed the time of executing. So your business model of fast in, fast out to Rome, to Portugal, to Lisbon, to Paris is structurally challenged, isn't it?
I think it is for the next couple of months, Matt. But again, I think vaccinations will rapidly overtake PCR tests. Increasingly, as you see 80% of the adult population of Europe vaccinated by the end of June, most of the European countries are opening up. The Portuguese, the Italians, the Greeks are saying we will accept a negative PCR test or evidence of a vaccine. And if you've been vaccinated, I think that will displace the requirement for negative PCR tests. Now, clearly in the summer months this year, we expect to be running anywhere between 60 to 70% of a normal summer. But I think by the time we get to the second half in October, November, December, essentially all of the European population will have been vaccinated, and we think there will be very few restrictions on travel at that point in time. We look to then getting back to some pre-COVID normality.
Are you burning through cash at the moment? Do you think you're going to need to raise more capital, Michael?
No, we've done a stellar job on cash preservation, Anne-Marie, over the last year. We went into the COVID crisis with about 3.8 billion in cash at March 2020, and we're at 3.15 billion cash in March 2021, with essentially our business had been wiped out for the last 12 months. So we still have one of the strongest balance sheets in the industry. We haven't done any of these desperation sales and leasebacks. We have very strong cash balances, but we will always continue to look for opportunities where we can raise money on low-cost terms or advantageous low-cost terms, particularly because we have a big Boeing order coming, the deliveries of which were supposed to start in April, but keep being delayed as a result of problems between Boeing and the FAA on the game-changer deliveries.
Well, Michael, you talk about where you can maybe raise money. You talk about the outlook getting better in the second half. If you have to come back, will you come back to the debt markets?
I mean, I think we would review it. We review it on an ongoing basis, Manny. Our primary focus at the moment is we have a 2014 bond for 815 million we have to repay at the end of June. We have all the cash on the balance sheet to make that repayment. We have that UK government loan of 600 million has to be repaid by March of 2022. Again, we have the cash on the balance sheet for those, but we also have capex coming. So I think we'll continue to look at the debt markets where financing is cheap. And certainly at the moment, it seems to be cheap with the ECB buying program and government support. So it's something we continue to manage carefully and monitor closely so that we maintain the strongest balance sheet in the airline industry in Europe.
You mentioned the 737s. When do you expect then to actually start flying these planes?
Anne-Marie, I wish I knew. They were certified by EASA and the FAA on the 6th of April. We expected our first deliveries in April. I think the Boeing have been very disappointing. Certainly the management team in Seattle have been very disappointing in the way they have handled the relationship with the FAA and their customers over the last 6-8 weeks. We expect to take at least 14 game-changer deliveries in April and May. We sit here in the middle of May with no aircraft and no idea when we're going to get our first one. And the communication flow from Boeing has been very poor. We support the FAA and EASA, who have been, very rigorous with Boeing. There was an electrical issue identified a couple of weeks ago. Boeing were kind of poo-pooing it as being something small, not serious. But the FAA were saying, no, show us the data, show us the documentation. And Boeing, I think, have been slow to clear those issues. Now, I think Boeing have done a terrific job. The new leadership under Dave Calhoun have really turned that company around. But I think there are issues in Seattle, and the guys on the ground manufacturing and delivering the aircraft really need to get their act together because the performance certainly in the last 2 months has been very disappointing, I think would be a fair description of it.
Well, that's certainly a description of where you are. Michael, when other people are floundering, you typically take risk. You've looked and mentioned a couple of times about expanding into other airports as others pull back on their capacity. So which countries do you think could top that agenda? And are you in active talks? Are you being offered pretty amazing terms?
Well, actually, Manus, we're getting dizzy with the number of airport discussions that are going on at the moment. Already for this summer and in the winter of 21, we've announced 8 new bases. We have new bases being opened up in capital cities like Zagreb in Croatia, Stockholm, Arlanda, Riga. We're also adding more opening bases on the Greek islands this summer in Rhodes, Corfu. And I think there are extensive discussions going on with airports in Italy, Spain, Scandinavia. We're also looking at more airports in Central and Eastern Europe, where we see a very strong recovery of tourism traffic into this summer peak. But we need those aircraft from Boeing. And while that uncertainty hangs over those deliveries, we're a little bit kind of nervous about concluding any of those negotiations. The key ones I would point to, though, is we've extended the low-cost deal at London Stansted now runs out to 2028. And that will certainly be a focus for growth for us as we recover. And I think particularly there would be significant opportunities in London where Heathrow, as usual, is imposing a ridiculous £10 tax on passengers to recover its COVID losses. It's not as if British Airways and the airlines haven't suffered hugely, but those kind of monopoly airports like Heathrow, who will try to scalp passengers and their airline customers, I think augurs very well for our growth and recovery at a lower cost airport in London like Stansted.
If you're looking at adding airports in Central and Eastern Europe, are you going to need more planes? Is now the time you'd bump up another order of the 737s?
Absolutely, Anne-Marie. I mean, well, we bumped up our order in December. We increased the game-changer order from 135 to 210 aircraft. We are hoping to get 14 of them before the end of May. That's not going to happen now. But we plan to take 60, 65 aircraft deliveries before summer 2022. And I think that's why so many airports are talking to us at the moment. They've identified, like, Alitalia has reduced its fleet by 30%. TAP in Portugal have reduced its fleet by 25%. I mean, these aircraft are not coming back. And those airports are looking to us. They know we have new aircraft coming, and we're very keen to work with those airport partners so that we can put in more capacity, certainly into summer 2022, when I think you'll see a fundamentally very strong rebound in families travelling again across Europe, short-haul holidays to the beaches of Europe.
Michael, can we just circle back and finish off with vaccine passports. You say to me, Manus, the vaccine that you have will usurp all the PCRs that you need to take. Do you support vaccine passports, Michael? And do you have enough, I suppose, velocity of other CEOs with you who endorse that view as being the way we get back to pre-COVID demand?
Yeah, man, it's a very good question, but it depends on what you mean by a vaccine passport. If we're waiting for governments to publish some document, then no, I'm against it, because it'll take 3 years for the governments to get their act together. But and what we're seeing in Europe, certainly in the tourism economies in Italy, Portugal, Spain, Greece, they're saying we will accept evidence from the passenger that they have been vaccinated. So we've created a page on the Ryanair app where you just upload your vaccine certificate, confirming that or you can add it to your passport, but confirming that you've been vaccinated. And all of the European countries have said we will accept that evidence. So there clearly needs to be vaccine evidence. The EU is talking about a green cert, but we're not quite sure how they get to a green cert in time for travel in June and July. But certainly acceptance of vaccination, whether it's paper or it's a digital vaccination confirmation, displaces the need for PCR testing, which, as you rightly say, is very cumbersome and very expensive.